This is the Sculptor's Apprentice. That is Simon the Wonder Dog, and this is a marble base. And today, we're gonna drill holes in it, and we're gonna mount a bronze sculpture to it.
Welcome to the Sculptor's Apprentice, where you learn how now. And now your guide on this epic journey of learning, E. Spencer Schubert.
I'd already started drilling this base, and then I realized this would probably be a pretty good tutorial, but don't worry, I'll back up and catch you all up on it. Okay, so first we have our marble base here, and you'll see that I've already got my 2 holes marked, but I'm going to show you how to do that real quick, just so that you guys know, because that's a pretty important part of this. So the way we do that is we have these little sets of 1/4-20 bolts that instead of having heads on them have been ground down to a point. All right, so see if you can focus on that. So we've got a couple different lengths of these. Short ones and long ones. And the way you do this is just take a hacksaw, reciprocating saw, something, put the bolt in a pair of vice grips, cut the head off, and then just sharpen it on a disc sander or using a file. So the reason we have these is because all of our sculptures get 2 nuts mounted in the bottom, and you can see I've already got my pointers in there, right? So let's just take one of these out. So see, there's a 1/4-20 nut welded into the bottom. So when we put these guys in, they'll transfer a marking hole for us on the marble. So we put those in there so that they stick just above the surface. See, if I slide this straight edge across, they hit right there and hit right there. Okay? So that way, it'll just leave the tiniest mark on the surface of our marble base. So I'm going to go ahead and set this on here and show you the kind of mark that it makes just in front of these other 2 holes that I have on here. Don't worry, it'll be covered up by the base of this Bill Snyder statue here. So I've got this masking tape on here so that we don't accidentally scratch it if we set this down a different way. That's just a good precautionary thing to do. All right, so now I'll do it behind it. So we just pretty much visually line it up and then set it down. And then we just give it a little push like that. And then it leaves 2 little marks. Let's see if I can get you to look at the quality. So right there, you can see the big round hole that I've already drilled because I was too anxious to get this going and then realized it'd be a good tutorial. And then you can see this tiny little white mark right there. And that is the mark that the point leaves. And that's enough to transfer the bolt location. That is the dead center of the bolt that needs to come through there. So what I'll do now is I will make that hole just a little bit bigger with the bit before we take it down to our drill press and drill the hole all the way through. Now I have my glass and tile bit chucked into my drill, and I'm just going to basically emphasize that little mark, just make it a little bit bigger so there's no confusion when I get down to the drill press. Sometimes when you're doing this, you can have some a couple marks in the same location just because you've had to try it a couple times. And this is just a good way to avoid confusion. So I'll just put it right in the center of that hole and just give it that much. And then that's turned our tiny little mark into a pretty substantial mark that we're not going to miss. So now let's go down to the drill press and drill these holes. We're down in the shop. We're getting ready to drill our holes. We have our 2 little spots marked from our bronze sculpture earlier, and we have 2 glass and tile drill bits here. We have a 3/8 inch to drill our hole all the way through, and that's going to give us a little bit of play on our 1/4 inch bolt. And then we also have a 1/2 inch for countersinking the bottom of the base so that our bolts sit flush below the surface, and that's going to be really important. Now the trick is going to be to build this little clay wall around each hole and fill that clay wall with water. And that way, we can, number 1, keep our drill bit cool, and number 2, keep all the dust down. Stone is really hard and brittle. These drill bits are very hard, and they need to go slow and be kept cool. So we've got our drill press set to the slowest speed possible. And if you're using a hand drill, just set it to speed 1, whatever the lowest speed you can use is, and just go slow. Patience is the name of the game. So let's head to the drill press. We're going to build this clay wall out of some old oil-based clay. Just don't use anything brand new. There's no reason to. And just make it a little bit big enough to clear the drill bit and enough so you can add some water in there. So just to give you an idea how long this is taking right here, I'm condensing 7 minutes of drilling into about 50 seconds just so you don't get bored. But you notice how I keep lifting the drill bit out of the water. That's to clear the slurry that's created with the water and marble dust. If you don't do that, then the water won't be able to get down into the hole, and the drill bit will get hotter and drier. And so then in between holes here, we're just cleaning up the bit, adding a little water, do the next hole, and then down again. Really, it's just a matter of feel. You just don't want to push too hard. You know, let it get a little bit, and then rinse it off, and then go back down, and then come back up, and just really be patient with it. Let the bit do the work. Don't try to do the work by forcing the bit down into the very brittle stone. Okay, now we're going to flip it over, and we're just going to countersink these holes on the bottom, just enough to get the bolt sitting below the bottom surface. Really only like 1/8 of an inch deep. And now we're done. We're back up in the studio from the shop. We have our base drilled, countersunk, and I've already put the felt feet on him. And so now we're going to go ahead and attach our statue to the base using 2.5 inch 1/4-20 countersink bolts. See that? We got a flush head right there. So it's not a regular bolt. People call those all sorts of things. Stove bolts. Let's see what they say on the box here. Ooh, machine screws. Flat Phillips machine screws. So, and the length of these will just depend on the thickness of your base and the clearance inside your sculpture. So these are 2.5 because we've got a 2-inch base and we've got about 3/4 of an inch of clearance inside the sculpture. So now I'm just going to show you how we put him together. Now this part will kind of depend on the base and the sculpture that you're mounting. With these small maquettes with this granite base that has a slight overhang, what I like to do is put down a nice clean packing blanket and fold it in such a way that there's a little bit more thickness in the back, so the statue can sit there and then the base can sit a little bit lower. That helps me with the lineup because it's going to be critical to not move the bronze around on the granite or you'll get scratches. Especially on these dark colored stones, the scratches show up just like that. Okay, so now we've got our two machine screws, 1/4 inch in here, and then we know that it's lined up. So we're just going to grab our little stubby screwdriver, it's just a Phillips head screwdriver, and I'm going to line things up and screw it in just a little bit and then tighten it slowly. And I'm going to move the camera to the other side so you guys can see. Okay, here goes nothing. Sorry about the camera move, it's just easier because I'm a righty. So here we go. Set this up like this. We're going to pull our statue in, visually line up the first hole, and then start tightening till we know that it grabs, which it is not doing. It's an art, not a science. Okay, so there, now I know that I've got contact on that one. Now I'm going to line up the second one, and the whole time I'm doing this, I'm just keeping it from touching, keeping the bronze from touching the granite. I just don't want it to scratch. This is about a $100 base, so we don't need to be wasting that money today. Okay, so now I've got both nuts in, and I'm just going to kind of check the clearance all the way around and slowly tighten each one hand tight. There we go. And we are done. So that is that. All that remains to do is clean it up with a towel and get it to the customer. That's the end of this lesson. Hope you guys enjoyed it and learned how to drill your own marble bases to save a lot of time and headache. Here we go. This is the final product, 50-pound product. See, there are holes. All right. All the information about all the parts we used will be in the show notes. If you have any questions, post in the comments. If you have any comments, post in the comments, and we will see you next time. Thanks.